Hey there, how's it going everyone? My name is True Wonder Dog, and today we have a guide for Sakura. This guide will cover all of her moves and even have a short combo guide at the end. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. I'm going to go ahead and start off with her normal attacks. We're going to do the punches first, and then move on to the kicks, and finally the jumping attacks. So of course, first off we have Standing Light Punch. Very good range for a light punch. Pretty fast startup too, it's 4 frames. So it's not her fastest move, but it's very good reach. That's very good reach. Great for comboing after Crouching Light Punch, which is 3 frames. So this is in fact her fastest normal attack, but the range is not as good. So it's stronger in one area and weaker in the other. Now the good news is you can link these two attacks together. Crouching Light Punch and then Standing Light Punch. Again, Light Punch has very good range, so very easy to follow up with. Very good range on both the attacks. Crouching version is faster, standing version has better range. And next up we have Medium Punch. So Standing Medium Punch does not have very good range at all, but it's very plus on hit, which is why you can follow it up with Heavy Attack. So I can actually do back Heavy Punch afterwards and it combos. That's the benefit of Standing Medium Punch. The range is not very good, but it's very advantage on hit. In fact, it's still +3 on block, which gives me enough time to do Crouching Medium Punch, and that's actually a frame trap if the opponent tries to escape. Whoops, my bad, did not mean to do a DP there. So if I was to do Standing Medium Punch and then Crouching Medium Punch, that's actually a frame trap for the opponent. Now another standard combo you can do with Medium Punch, outside of back Heavy Punch, is you can do Crouching Medium Kick. That also combos, and that's a big deal because Crouching Medium Kick is faster, so it's a bit easier to do, and it also has really good range, and it hits low, so it's got a mix-up built in. So most of the time you're going to do Standing Medium Punch, Crouching Medium Kick. And of course after Crouching Medium Kick, you're going to do Medium Shoryuken. You'll find that Medium Shoryuken is how she ends most of her combos because her fireballs are a bit slow, and only her Medium Tatsu actually leads to combos. So most of the time you're going to end your combo with Medium Shoryuken. Just keep that in mind. And next up we have the Heavy Punch. So Standing Heavy Punch is one of my favorite normals that she has. It has great range and it's fast and has crazy hit stun. And that comes in handy for a lot of things. One of the best things about it is after a V-trigger cancel. So if I was to cancel into V-trigger, I know that Heavy Punch is going to reach. And if that Heavy Punch reaches, then if I'm in V-trigger 2, I can do a combo with her Tatsu, because her Tatsu gets enhanced in V-trigger 2. And we'll cover that more in depth later on, but the main takeaway is that Standing Heavy Punch is great for comboing after V-trigger, or just for counter hitting, whiff punishing, just a great footsie tool. And then next up we have Crouching Heavy Punch. Now Crouching Heavy Punch could be a decent anti-air, although back Heavy Punch in my experience is better, because it's a bit faster, has a bit of a better hitbox, and also crush counters on counter hit. The only real benefit of Crouching Heavy Punch is that it forces the opponent to stand. Now unfortunately, it's not plus enough on hit to combo into anything outside of V-trigger. So the main benefit of this normal is you hit the opponent, force them to stand up, and then cancel into V-trigger. That way Standing Heavy Punch or any follow-up you want to do after will connect. That's the main benefit of Crouching Heavy Punch. It also has really good hit stun, so it's good for canceling into Medium Tatsu. And that's a big deal because Medium Tatsu can actually cancel into Crouching Light Punch, and that Crouching Light Punch can lead into Medium Shoryuken. Once again, Medium Shoryuken is going to be how you end most of your combos. Alright, so that is it for her punches. Let's go ahead and move on to the kicks next. So first off, we have Standing Light Kick. Very good range on this move, and it's 4 frames, so it's great for punishing a lot of stuff. Any attack that is -4 or slower on recovery, you can punish with this bad boy, which is great because it leads into Medium Shoryuken. Even at max distance, it will still combo into Medium Shoryuken. It's a very big deal. If you want to make comboing into Shoryuken a bit easier, I recommend pressing forward in Light Kick, and then just doing a fireball motion with Medium Punch. That will give you the move every single time. It's a trick that I use all the time with Sakura. Now Crouching Light Kick has a deceptive hitbox. As you can see, I'm clearly hitting Karen, but nothing's happening. However, it can combo into Crouching Light Punch, which is good because Crouching Light Punch leads into Medium Shoryuken. Next up we have Standing Medium Kick. This attack has really good range. Again, a pretty consistent thing with Sakura is that since she's older now, she has very long legs. She got buffed by life itself. You know, maturity and puberty actually buffed her fighting ability. She now has much better range. So that Standing Medium Kick is a great footsie tool. It's fast. It's actually safe on block, by the way. It's actually +1 on block. So not only is it safe, but it's actually advantage. So it's a very strong move if the opponent blocks it. So it's not really good for anything outside of footsies, but it's still a very good footsie tool. Now Crouching Medium Kick, as we talked about earlier, is great for comboing into Medium Shoryuken, especially after Standing Medium Punch. Now once again, there is a trick here to make comboing into Medium Shoryuken a bit easier. So instead of just doing Crouching Medium Kick, I actually do diagonal down forward Medium Kick, and then I do a fireball motion with Medium Punch. And that gives me Shoryuken every single time. So I'm not pushing down Medium Kick, I'm pushing the diagonal down forward and Medium Kick at the same time, Then I'm doing a regular fireball motion with medium punch, and that makes things very consistent with Sakura. And you want to make sure to use all these shortcuts because Sakura needs to be able to end her combos with shoryuken consistently. If you can't consistently end your combos with shoryuken, Sakura is going to be very tough for you. Now thankfully these tricks aren't that hard to learn, just a little bit of practice and you'll have it down in no time. And next up we have standing heavy kick. This attack has fantastic range, very good footsie tool, and on counter hit you can easily combo into standing light kick and then medium shoryuken. Now unfortunately that's about all you can get unless you want to cancel into V trigger. And the reason why that is because standing heavy kick has a ton of recovery, especially on whip. So I'm going to go ahead and just do standing heavy kick and hold back and watch how long it takes for me to walk. Look at all that recovery. The opponent has all day to jump in on you if you whiff this, so be very careful the distance at which you do it. You want to make sure you're at a range it can actually reach because thankfully it will catch opponents out of the air if they try to jump right in front of your face like this. I've done this multiple times in arcade mode fighting the AI, I've done it right here, and every time they jump, they get caught by it. So it has a pretty good hitbox to catch people jumping, but not if they're outside of this range, and if they're outside that range, it's almost as bad as throwing a fireball. They're gonna hit you. So do be careful with this move. It has great range, and it's a good footsie tool, but it has very long recovery, so there is some risk to it. And last but not least, we have crouching heavy kick. Pretty good range on this move. Pretty long recovery too though, and a bit deceptive on the hitbox. Once again, I'm sweeping Karen, but nothing's happening. So her lows don't tend to have very good range outside of crouching medium kick, so keep that in mind. Crouching medium kick is a pretty literal hitbox, what you see is what you get. But the sweep, not so much. You want to get pretty close for the sweep. And of course on counter hit, you get a crush counter which builds some more V gauge and forces the opponent into a hard knockdown, which is good. However, do keep in mind that because it has bad range and it's very unsafe on block, that makes it a huge risk. Some sweeps in this game have such good range that you can still do them when the opponent blocks, and they can't really follow up with much. Maybe they can jab you or just do like a normal of their own, but they can't really punish with a full combo. I have to be really close to actually hit the opponent with this, so they can probably do a full combo on me. Alright, that is it for the standing normals. Let's move on to the jumping normals. Now as far as jump-ins go, you want to do jumping heavy punch or jumping heavy kick. Now keep in mind jumping heavy kick has some wind up to it, so if I do it too late, it won't work. See right there. If I do it too late, it straight up won't come out, right? It's not instant. Whereas the heavy punch, super reliable, can do it as late as I want, and it's always gonna work. Well, except right there. My point is that the heavy punch is a bit more reliable in my opinion. It's a bit faster, doesn't have a delay to it. Pretty dang good move. The heavy kick, on the other hand, is a bit slower, but has a much better hitbox to hurtbox ratio. You can see Sakura sticking her foot way out front, so it's good in that regard that it's harder to hit the opponent. It's a lot like Zangief's jumping medium kick in that regard. It's good at beating anti-airs. Just keep in mind anti-airs are much better in Arcade Edition, so it's not always the best tool. Now if you want to cross up, then you actually have two options with Sakura. The most obvious one for comboing is jumping medium kick. Jumping medium kick will cross up and has a pretty good cross up hitbox, and it will easily combo into heavy punch. It's got a lot of hit stun to it, a lot of hit stun, pretty big horizontal hitbox, pretty easy to do the cross up, pretty hard to mess it up, but it is possible. If I overjump it, I won't get the cross up, but pretty good hitbox. Very good for comboing into attacks, even heavy attacks. Jumping light kick is also great for cross ups, and is also good for tick throws, so if the opponent gets hit or blocks, I can go for a throw. That's the benefit of jumping light kick. Of course, a tick throw is easier if the opponent blocks it, since they're not in hit stun, but the point is you have a cross up option that can also be a throw mix up, thanks to Sakura's jumping light kick. And make sure not to forget about jumping medium punch. Sakura's jumping medium punch is a great air to air. Not only will it win most of the time, but it actually puts the opponent in a juggle state, which allows you to combo after it either in the air or after landing on the ground. So it's a great normal if you know the opponent's going to jump. Now Sakura also has an air throw, so that can be a good way to counter jumping as well. But I think jumping medium punch is great if you want to go for a combo. Alright, that's it for her normal attacks, so let's go ahead and move on to her unique attacks next. First up, we have forward medium kick. This attack is a slow overhead, and it's unsafe if the opponent blocks it. Now the nice thing is if the opponent's crouching, this will make them think twice. It will catch them overhead and does decent damage. 70 damage is good. It's a good reminder, it's a great mix-up tool, especially if the opponent's low on health. This is a very frightening move. It's always nice to have an overhead with your character, especially an overhead that has great range like this one. Next up we have back heavy punch. As stated earlier, this attack is a great anti-air, but it's also great on hit. It can be followed up after standing medium punch for a good combo, and it has a lot of hit stun, so it combos into a lot of special moves, and it's also great for V-trigger canceling as well. So it's an all-around great move in general. However, what makes this move extra scary is the crush counter. This attack on crush counter will send the opponent flying into the air. This makes it very easy to follow up with her air Hadoken, and you can actually fully charge it. And then after fully charging the air Hadoken, you can do medium Dragon Punch for some extra damage. That's a big punish. 270 didn't cost me any meter. It's a great way to punish attacks, especially invincible reversals, right? If Karen did her EX reversal attack on me and I blocked it, I now have this full combo that I can do on her for lots of damage. And last but not least, we have down forward heavy kick. I don't mean quarter-circle forward, by the way, I just mean diagonal down forward heavy kick. Now, this attack may seem like an anti-air, and it probably is in some regards, but it has slower startup, so I don't recommend it. It also has very deceptive range, right? Not super good, has to be right in the opponent's face. So I'll admit, at first I didn't know what this move was good for, and then I looked at the frame data. So this move is great for a lot of reasons. The first good reason is it's +3 on hit, which means you can actually follow it up with Crouching Light Punch. And as we saw earlier, Crouching Light Punch is great for comboing into medium shoryuken. Another great thing about this move is it forces the opponent to stand if it hits them. So if I hit the opponent with this, they will be forced into a standing position, which is great for comboing into V-Trigger, especially since this move is very advantageous if you cancel into V-Trigger. It's actually one of the best moves for canceling into V-Trigger. So I guess what I'm saying is this move is great for Okizeme. It's a great tool to use on your opponent's wake up when they're trying to get up from a down state. So if you knock the opponent down, you can do this on their wake up, and if it hits, you can cancel into V-Trigger, or you can do Crouching Light Punch into medium shoryuken. It will force them to stand up, which makes it a fantastic tool. So it's a great tool after knocking down your opponent. That's what makes this move strong. Okay, that's it for her normal attacks and her unique attacks. So let's go ahead and move on to her special moves next. First up, we have her Fireballs, her Hadoken. Now all three versions of the Hadoken do the same damage and are equally unsafe on block. They're all -8 and they all have 17 frames of startup. The only real difference is that the heavier versions stay on screen for longer, and the heavy version is actually full screen as a result. It stays on screen the longest, therefore it goes full screen. And because these fireballs are unsafe on block, you want to be careful when you do them. You want to do them at a pretty far away range so the opponent can't punish you for doing them. Alright, that's a very big deal. It's also very easy for the opponent to jump over them and then jump in on you. It's actually a long time before I can anti-air. Every time you do a fireball, you have to fully commit to it because the opponent could jump in for a full combo. However, these fireballs do have a couple of things that make them very cool. The first cool thing is you can charge it. When fully charged, the fireball does more damage and hits twice. So it actually counts as 2 fireballs at the cost of no meter. It also becomes +3 on block as well. But we're not done yet. These fireballs actually have a built-in mix-up, because if I fully charge this fireball, I can actually cancel into Sakura's V-skill. That's a very big deal for a lot of reasons. Now keep in mind you have to fully charge the fireball to do this, otherwise it will not work. But it's a big deal for a lot of reasons. As you saw just then, I could combo into her V-Trigger Heavy Punch. And I could have done all 3 if I wanted, just because it happened to knock Karen down. Now chances are the opponent's not going to get hit by that fireball because it's very slow and there's a huge buildup, right? I have this huge windup, it's obvious I'm going to throw it, so they're most likely going to block, right? Well guess what, if they block, the mix-ups don't stop. There's a lot I can do if the opponent actually blocks this. So I'm going to have the opponent set to guard all. So she's going to guard standing. So check this out. I'm going to cancel into V-skill and then go for a mix-up. Throw. The opponent was actually punished for blocking there. Unless they crouch, this throw will get them every single time as long as I'm within range. And the throw has a pretty good hitbox on it. Now the opponent can duck under this throw, but that doesn't mean they're safe. I actually have an option for that too. I'm going to go ahead and set the opponent to crouch, and watch what happens. Once again, I'm going to charge my fireball, cancel into V-skill, but this time I'm not going to throw. Instead, I'm going to do Heavy Punch. And look at that. Karen was forced to stand up after my V-skill Heavy Punch. That's because this Heavy Punch is a mid. If she crouched, this would have hit her. Straight up. And if it hit her, I would have got a full combo. So that's the mix-up. If you get a crush counter sweep and knock the opponent down, you can do a fully charged Hadoken, go into V-skill, and then that's your mix-up. In fact, as long as your opponent doesn't quick rise and does a delayed wake up, you can always do this mix-up. Now obviously this mix-up does have some risk to it, because you could mess up, you could guess wrong, or the opponent could call you out and jump. That's why you want to do it on their wake up, that way they can't just jump over the fireball, they have to respect it. But all in all, it's still a great mix-up tool. Now keep in mind V-skill kick does not work, right? If I do V-skill heavy kick, it doesn't work at all. It has to be heavy punch, because heavy kick actually counts as a high attack. Even though it has a great hitbox, it will not punish crouching opponents, whereas the heavy punch actually does. So once again, charge your fireball completely, cancel into V-skill, and then go for a heavy punch or a throw. If the opponent's standing, throw them. If they're crouching, go for a heavy punch. Now the EX version is slightly faster, and also goes full screen, and also hits twice, so it's a great tool in general. It's also safe on block too, so it's a good option. Now, is it worth the meter? That's kinda hard to say, it depends on what you want. If you want a knockdown, then it's worth the meter. It puts the opponent in that knockdown state, so you can actually go for your mix-up if you want, and start your mix-up game, so it's good for that. But at the same time, it doesn't do much damage, so if damage is what you're after, then you're better off not spending the bar. Next up, we have her Air Hadoken. This attack could be a decent anti-air, right? It's pretty good. And it doesn't matter which version you do, they're all the same. The light, medium, and heavy are all the same fireball, same damage, same startup, same everything. And just like the ground fireballs, you can also charge these for more damage and a bit more hit stun, so it's great for juggling the opponent if you fully charge it. Now the thing is, the opponent's not going to jump into this because they can tell you're doing an air fireball. The animation is slightly different from your ground fireball, so obviously you won't find most opponents jumping into this. However, what makes this fireball really strong is comboing after crush counter back heavy punch, like we saw earlier. You do back heavy punch to punish an unsafe attack, and then combo into your fully charged air fireball, after which you can do a medium shoryuken or even an EX shoryuken if you want some more damage. That's honestly the most useful thing about this air fireball, comboing after a crush counter back heavy punch. And last but not least, the EX Air Hadoken of course does more damage, and it starts up pretty fast as well. So it could be a decent anti-air if your opponent has a very floaty jump, but you almost never want to spin the meter on this move. And next up we have the Tatsus. Now light Tatsu doesn't have very much range and can't be comboed after, but it is -2 on block, so it's actually safe. It's not your turn if the opponent blocks it, but it is completely safe, there's no risk to doing it. Now the medium version on the other hand, can be comboed after. As mentioned earlier, you can do crouching light punch into medium shoryuken for some pretty decent damage. Now the problem is this move has a lot of startup, so it only works after a heavy attack. In fact, even though this move will combo from far away, it won't combo at max distance from things like standing heavy punch, so I recommend doing attacks like back heavy punch or crouching heavy punch since you gotta be a bit closer to land those. And even if you land them at max range like back heavy punch, you're not guaranteed to get the light punch follow-up because you're still too far away. So see, light punch wouldn't have reached there, never gonna happen. So I actually recommend doing crouching heavy punch most of the time to combo into this move. If the opponent's dizzy, or if you land the jump in with a good hit confirm, then it's good to do crouching heavy punch instead, because crouching heavy punch ensures that you're close to the opponent, and it has plenty of hit stun to allow the follow-up, and of course light punch will always reach. And also keep in mind that medium Tatsu is unsafe. Heavy Tatsu is also unsafe, but jumps a bit higher into the air, so it does have the potential to go over fireballs. It also hits twice, even from far away. Now it can't be comboed after though. Unlike medium Tatsu, you will not combo after this move ever. It's just not gonna happen. Now the trade-off is that it hits 3 times, so that's kinda cool. It doesn't seem to combo after anything though. You can't do crouching heavy punch into it, but it's still a great way to punish projectiles. That's the main use of the heavy Tatsu. And last but not least, we have EX Tatsu. EX Tatsu does a ton of damage and has a lot of corner carry too. Look how far Karen is now. She's all the way in the corner if I dash up now, but that's not all that's great about EX Tatsu. If I was to combo into this move, I can actually do an EX DP. Now the timing's a bit tricky, I dropped it there, I didn't delay it long enough. You want to do it as late as possible, but look at all that damage, 255. Now it did cost me 2 bars, so that's a lot of meter, but if it kills the opponent then it could be worth it. In fact, if you don't want to spin the meter, then light shoryuken is always a nice option. Now while these Tatsus can be done in the air, they don't seem to cross up, and in fact they're pretty hard to get to hit the opponent in general. If you cross up, I haven't once been able to hit the opponent, and if you land in front of them, it's still kind of a toss-up. It's pretty hard to actually space correctly. You basically want to be as far away as possible to make this work, and even then, it's pretty hard to time. I like to be about this far away, so a little past backwards jumping distance, and then go for the heavy Tatsu. That's the only way I found any luck, but even then, it's really hard to actually get to work. The EX Tatsu holds you in the air, so if the opponent tries to do something like a super, then you can do EX Tatsu. Now right there I was whiffing it, and the reason why is you have to do Tatsu after a forward jump. You can't do it during a neutral jump or a back jump, so keep that in mind. You have to jump forward if you want to do an air Tatsu. Sadly, the air Tatsu doesn't seem to have a lot of utility. Even if it hits, you can't hit confirm into super because the recovery on landing is way too long. Trust me, I've tried it, it just doesn't work. I bet you can't even V-trigger cancel, but let's go ahead and try. Nope, you can't even V-trigger out of it, so there's no real benefit to doing the air Tatsu outside of getting a bit longer range on your jump and possibly getting over a projectile. Or if you're in the corner and you jump on the opponent, and they go for a wake up super, you can do EX Tatsu and try to save yourself. Because not only does she stay in the air, but she actually goes a bit higher. A lot of attacks won't reach up that high, so EX Tatsu can be a great way to avoid a wake up super. And last but not least, we have the shoryuken. The light shoryuken does the least damage, but also has the sharpest angle, so it could be a decent anti-air. The medium version does more damage, and it's your go-to way for ending combos like we saw earlier. It has good startup and decent range. Now, the heavy version is very hard to combo into. Not gonna lie, it has to be done after a heavy attack, so you're not gonna use it most of the time. In fact, even when I do have time to combo into it, I usually still do medium shoryuken. I just find it more reliable because it starts up a lot faster. The heavy version has a lot of wind up to it. It has great range, so that's a nice trade-off. Look at that, I could whiff punish stuff if I was looking for it. That's one benefit, but the point is it's very slow. Now do keep in mind, none of these shoryukens have any invincibility. If the opponent knocks you down, you cannot just do a wake up shoryuken unless you want to spend meter. The EX shoryuken is fully invincible for 12 frames and does the most damage. Also has a lot of corner carry. Karen is all the way in the corner after that, and I can dash forward and she has to wake up with me in her face. So it's very great in that regard. The EX shoryuken will also combo in situations where the regular shoryukens will not. The game will not let you do a meterless shoryuken in certain combos, so that's something else to keep in mind as well. Alright, that's it for her special moves. Let's move on to her V system. First up, we have Sakura's V skill. We did touch on it a bit earlier, but let's break it down in more detail now. So if you press medium punch and medium kick, then Sakura will do a short hop. And if the opponent's standing, this move will never cross up. It will always stay in front of the opponent. And during this hop, Sakura has three options. She can throw the opponent if they're standing, and this will break through block every time. Or she can go for a kick. This can be any kick, by the way. I said heavy kick earlier. It can be any kick. And this will let her combo after it, depending on how long she delays it. If you delay it, then it's actually +6 on block, and can actually be comboed after too. It just has a long recovery animation, so it's hard to tell when you can actually attack. You really have to delay it. There we go. So as you can see, it's very tricky to combo after it. You have to stay in the air all day long, and the opponent has all day to hit you as a result, so it's kind of a catch-22. Now if you do a punch, then she hits the opponent off the ground and can combo after it. Just keep mashing it and you get all 3 hits. Now I haven't seen anyone be able to do the trick you did in Street Fighter 4, where you would whiff the 3rd hit to get frame advantage. That doesn't seem to be possible in Street Fighter 5. You cannot whiff the 3rd hit, they're all guaranteed to hit. It hurts me to say it, but that frame advantage trick is gone. And like I mentioned earlier, the punch version is an overhead. So if the opponent's trying to crouch and avoid your throw, you can catch him with the punch. It will win every time. And that's pretty much it for the V skill, outside of the fact that you can cancel after a fully charged Hadouken. Outside of that, there's not really too much to this move. And you do want to use it after the fully charged Hadouken, otherwise the opponent has all day to hit you. It's a very slow animation, and if you want to combo after it, or at least keep it safe, then you have to delay the kick. Otherwise it becomes unsafe and very easy to anti-air. However, that's not all her V skill can do. It also becomes very useful during her V trigger too. So let's go ahead and move on to that next. So I'm going to start off with Sakura's V trigger 2 because I find it much easier to explain. So V trigger 2 enhances her Tatsus while on the ground, and also enhances her Dragon Punch. Her shoryukens become a lot stronger in a lot of different ways. So let's go ahead and talk about that. While in V trigger 2, Sakura's Tatsus all behave the same way. It doesn't matter which strength you do. All of them juggle the opponent and launch them to extend the combo. And after launching the opponent with that final kick, you can actually cancel into her V skill. After which you can do a kick and then end with a Dragon Punch. So a full combo looks something like this. Now do make sure you delay the shoryuken. If you do it too early, it's not going to come out and you're going to get a Hadouken. And you don't want the fireball, you want the shoryuken, right? That's what you want. Because not only does the shoryuken do more damage and have more corner carry in V trigger 2, but it's also fully invincible. That's a very big deal. So not only does every shoryuken now do more damage than the EX version, but they're also equally as invincible. 12 frames of invincibility on startup for every shoryuken as long as V trigger 2 is active. That's a very big deal, especially if you want to play more defensively and stop the opponent from jumping in, stop the opponent from pressuring you after a knockdown. Your opponent always has to think twice while V trigger 2 is active. Even if you have no meter, you still have an invincible reversal. That's a very big deal for V trigger 2. So once again, V trigger 2 enhances all of her Tatsus. They can be cancelled with her V skill, and then ended with the Dragon Punch, and every Dragon Punch is now fully invincible for 12 frames and does more damage than the EX version. Very, very strong V trigger. Now the downside is it does run out pretty quickly. It's gone almost right away. It also does not enhance the air Tatsus from what I've seen. It's honestly my favorite of the two V triggers, but with that said, V trigger 1 is also very useful. A lot more useful than you might initially think. So let's go ahead and move on to her V trigger 1. Alright, so V trigger 1 does a lot of things. The first thing it does is enhance all of Sakura's fireballs. As you can see, every fireball now hits twice and causes a knockdown. Every fireball is also +1 on block now. So not only are they no longer unsafe, but they're actually advantageous on block. So if the opponent blocks my Hadoken, they now have to deal with more pressure from me. I can now do more things if they block it, because I'm the one at +1. They have to respect the fact that I have frame advantage after the fireball. Not only that, but you can actually combo after the fireball if it connects. So if I land this fireball, I can do a medium shoryuken. I could also do an EX shoryuken if I wanted to. If I wanted the extra damage, I could do an EX shoryuken. You also get access to a new move. If I press V trigger again, I get this attack, which nullifies all projectiles. It will beat all projectiles and knocks the opponent back, which is good too. You can even combo after it with crouching light punch, which of course leads into medium shoryuken. But that's not all. This V trigger also enhances the damage of her air Hadokens as well. These now do more damage and also cause a juggle state on the opponent. This becomes a very big deal if you land a crush counter back heavy punch. And honestly, this crush counter combo alone is what makes V trigger 1 so deadly and so scary. Check out how much damage this combo does without any meter at all. $318 damage. That's almost a super, and it didn't cost me any meter at all, and I still have a little bit of V trigger left, so I can still do a few more attacks if I want. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, every fireball also travels full screen now, since every fireball is basically the same now. It doesn't matter which strength you use, they all go full screen, they all have 2 hits, they all do more damage. Every fireball is more powerful and enhanced by this V trigger. And one last thing to note is her super does a little bit more damage during V trigger 1 as well. So this super does more damage no matter what, as long as you're in V trigger 1. So honestly, both of Sakura's V triggers are very useful. I can't decide which one is actually better at high level. I know which one is my favorite. I prefer V trigger 2 because I like having the invincible shoryuken, and I love the ability to extend my combos and make them look super flashy. However, V trigger 1 gives you much better fireballs, which means a better neutral game. It also makes your super do more damage, which is a great option, and it also makes your punish combos do a lot more damage. So the opponent has to be very careful when they do something unsafe against you, or even when trading with you on counter hit. In fact, I wouldn't even jump in if Sakura had V trigger 1, because if she's in V trigger and catches me with this on counter hit after a jump in, it's the exact same story. She gets the exact same amount of damage. It's very, very scary. And if she wants to spend 1 EX bar, it does even more damage. It does more than a super. I honestly do think both V triggers are equally useful, just in different ways. And of course we have her V reversal. Sakura's V reversal is very good. It's fully invincible for the first 30 frames and it knocks the opponent away. So it's a great defensive option, especially since both of Sakura's V triggers only cost 2 bars. So chances are you can use a couple V reversals and still have enough meter for a trigger at least once around. In fact, this V reversal puts the opponent at the perfect distance for a fully charged fireball, which you can then cancel into her V skill for a good mix-up. And last but not least, we have Sakura's super. Sakura's super is fully invincible on startup and actually has 2 versions. If you're right in the opponent's face, then you get the full animation and a bit more damage. And as mentioned earlier, both versions of the super do more damage during V trigger 1. Now if you're further away and do her super, you get a fireball that travels full screen and does pretty good damage, 250. However, keep in mind the recovery is much longer if you do it from further away, so if I'm not in the opponent's face, look how long it takes me to walk backward. As you can see, it took a long time before I was actually able to move after throwing that super. That means the opponent has plenty of time to jump over that fireball and hit me for a full combo, so just keep that in mind. Doing it further away is not always a good option. Alright everyone, that concludes the Sakura guide. I hope you enjoyed and found it helpful. If you did, please leave a like down below. It really does help my channel out a lot. And while you're down there, go ahead and post a comment too. What tips do you have for Sakura? And if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell. That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.